Most Christians know Jesus talked about giving and generosity, but very few realize Jesus also taught an intentional financial system. Not just spiritual principles, but practical steps for managing, multiplying, and stewarding resources. This wasn't hidden inside obscure passages. It's clearly visible in his parables and instructions if you know what to look for. Jesus didn't simply teach believers to trust God financially. He taught them to manage wisely. He taught increase, not survival. And unfortunately, a lot of churches emphasize giving while overlooking the system Jesus established for financial stewardship. Today, we're going to uncover the financial system Jesus modeled, why it matters, and how it changes the way we live and manage resources today. Jesus taught multiplication as a kingdom expectation. The first financial principle Jesus demonstrated is that multiplication is the expected outcome of stewardship. This is seen clearly in Matthew chapter 25, the parable of the talents. Jesus honors the servants who multiplied resources. He doesn't congratulate good intentions. He doesn't highlight how much they received initially. He praises how effectively they used what they were given. Notice what Jesus does not do. He does not say, "You tried your best." He does not say, "At least you didn't lose anything." Instead, he calls the servant who buried his talent wicked and lazy because he wasted potential, unused resources, and an opportunity for growth. The core message: God expects multiplication, not preservation. Multiplication is not greed. Multiplication is obedience. Wealth in Scripture is not about getting rich. It's about multiplying what God has entrusted for kingdom purpose. Jesus rewarded management, not desire. Jesus never praised desire. He praised execution. In Matthew 25, his language is consistent. "Well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over little, I will put you over much." That sentence reveals the entire financial pattern God uses. Faithfulness brings increase, meaning stewardship must come before expansion. God doesn't promote unused potential. God promotes active stewardship. In other words, managing resources biblically leads to greater responsibility and greater provision. Believers often ask for more without managing what they currently possess. Jesus corrected that mindset. The kingdom reward system is based on responsibility, consistency, and diligence, not emotional spirituality. Jesus connected financial stewardship to spiritual authority. In Luke 16:11, Jesus says, "If you are not faithful with worldly wealth, who will trust you with true riches?" This statement links financial management to spiritual maturity. Jesus taught that how believers handle money is a reflection of their character, their faithfulness, and their readiness for spiritual responsibility. He doesn't separate spiritual life from financial decisions. He integrates them. Financial stewardship is spiritual stewardship. The way we manage finances impacts the way heaven trusts us with bigger assignments. Church culture often treats money as something separate from spiritual life, but Jesus always treated money and stewardship as evidence of discipleship and maturity. Jesus revealed a step-by-step financial system. When you take everything Jesus taught on money and stewardship and compress it, three core components emerge. 1. Provision comes from God. God is the source of everything we have, whether large or small. Every resource in a believer's possession originates in the goodness and faithfulness of God. Stewardship belongs to the believer. Provision is God's responsibility. Stewardship is our responsibility. Believers are commanded to plan, budget, save, build, and prepare. 3. Multiplication comes from disciplined action. Multiplication results from active decision-making over time. Investing, cultivating skills, developing resources, adding systems, expanding opportunities. Provision, stewardship, multiplication. Provision does not guarantee multiplication. Stewardship is the link between what God gives and what God grows. Jesus modeled financial discipline. Multiple passages reveal Jesus' teaching, planning, and preparation. For example, Luke 15 contains the instruction about counting the cost before building a tower. Jesus emphasized evaluating, calculating, and preparing financially before taking action. This demonstrates that planning is spiritual and strategy is godly. Jesus consistently taught planning responsibility, evaluation, measuring resources, long-term thinking, establishing foundations before beginning an assignment. These teachings create the foundation of financial discipline. The Old Testament reinforces Jesus' teachings. This financial structure wasn't new. Jesus taught what God modeled for generations. Examples include Joseph managing grain in Egypt, Solomon managing wealth and trade, Abraham managing land and livestock. The Proverbs 31, woman building enterprise and profit. The Old Testament repeatedly emphasizes stewardship, resource control, planning, diligence, and building. Proverbs teaches that wealth comes through wisdom, diligence, planning, and discipline, not emotion. Here is the practical application for believers today. Most Christians have faith, prayer, generosity, and spiritual desire, but they lack structure, organization, and multiplication systems. Modern financial discipleship requires believers to identify resources, budget monthly, create saving habits, reduce unnecessary expenses, build skills, invest wisely, develop additional streams of income. Jesus' system wasn't meant to be inspirational. It was meant to be implemented. Here is what most churches unintentionally skipped. Church culture has focused heavily on tithing, giving, generosity. These are biblical, but they're only part of the system. Jesus taught a bigger structure. Give, faithfully steward, diligently multiply, consistently. If you remove stewardship and multiplication, you remove the financial backbone that Jesus intended believers to operate through. The result is generosity without growth, giving without wealth building, and faith without financial maturity. In conclusion, the Bible does not simply call Christians to trust God financially. It calls Christians to manage finances, multiply resources, and steward opportunity. The kingdom system Jesus taught was always based on responsibility before increase. Provision is the blessing of God. Stewardship is the responsibility of the believer. Multiplication is God rewarding obedience. Jesus taught a money system rooted in wisdom, not emotion. If you want more biblical and practical teaching on money, stewardship, and kingdom financial systems, subscribe and continue this journey with me.